70 years ago, we did not have a cure for childhood cancer. But it was 70 years ago that for the first time, we ventured onto the battlefield to challenge childhood cancer, and a hope for the cure began to shine in the distance. It was 1947, and a man named Sidney Farber was working at Boston Children's Hospital. He worked in a half basement, almost thrust into the hospital's back alleys, connected only by a series of icy corridors. He was a pediatric pathologist who had decided to find a cure for childhood cancer, specifically leukemia. The pediatricians of his time were outraged and ostracized him. They did not believe that it was possible to find a cure for leukemia. His peers did not dare to hope. They thought it was cruel to prolong the suffering of a child and give a family false hope. Rather, they diagnosed, transfused, and sent the child home to die. But Sidney Farber persisted, and in 1948 treated a 2.5-year-old boy named Robert Sandler, who had been diagnosed with leukemia. And for the first time ever, a child went into remission for 3 months. Today, over 80% of children who are diagnosed with cancer will go on to survive. For children diagnosed with leukemia, over 90% will survive. Cure is the most probable outcome, and this is something we celebrate. However, what a lot of people don't understand is that these children who survive will go on to develop late effects, side effects of the drugs that develop years later. Because the treatments we currently have at our disposal to treat childhood cancer are highly toxic, and their impact on young and developing organs is devastating. On average, survivors will go on to develop 17 chronic health conditions, with 5 graded as severe to life-threatening. They'll go on to develop second cancers, cardiovascular disease, neurocognitive impairments, infertility. Because it is literally decades until these late effects appear, we are only just now discovering what the impact is of some of the drugs we have been using, understanding that currently cure comes at a great cost. I'd like to introduce you to a childhood cancer survivor. Let's call him Ben. Ben was a sweet, energetic 3-year-old boy when he became ill and was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. He was treated here at Sydney Children's Hospital just up the road, and he went into remission. Unfortunately, he later relapsed, but with further chemotherapy, total body irradiation, and a bone marrow transplant from his brother, he was cured. Here is a photo of Ben and his mum celebrating his 21st birthday. They celebrated this amazing milestone together. There had been so many times they didn't think he would make it to his 21st birthday. Now here he was. He had survived childhood cancer. Now here is another photo of Ben. How old do you think he is? He's 45. To the left of him is his oncologist, who is also 45 years old. They're the same age. Ben died of lung disease shortly after this photo was taken. Over the past 70 years, the ethos has been cure at any cost, just save my child. But over the next 70 years, we hope to ensure that childhood cancer survivors not only survive, but go on to thrive. Wouldn't this be wonderful? It is no longer about survival, but about the survivor. We must ensure that childhood cancer survivors live with a quality of life equal to their courage, which we know is great. There is much work to be done and many challenges on the road ahead, But I do know that we're entering an exciting new era of personalised medicine, immunotherapy, and rewriting the human genome. I also know that we are fortunate here at UNSW to have a team that is highly skilled, highly motivated, and are highly dedicated to achieving the task ahead. And that they will propel us into the future, just as Sydney Farber did 70 years ago. Perhaps in 70 years, we will have learned from the elephants. Did you know that elephants rarely get cancer? Cancer is caused by genetic changes or DNA mutations that allow cells to grow and divide uncontrollably. Elephants are made up of 8 tons of cells and are one of the longest living mammals on our planet. Yet despite requiring more cell division than almost any other animal, they live cancer-free. The reason scientists are learning is because they have a tumour-suppressing gene known as TP53, which stops cells with damaged DNA from dividing. Humans have 2 copies. Elephants have 40. In an elephant, as cells divide and DNA damage naturally occurs, the cells undergo apoptosis, programmed cell death. Basically, in elephants, damaged elephant cells have decided to not run the risk of a bodgy repair job, but rather will selflessly suicide when damaged to ensure there is no risk of them dividing uncontrollably and causing cancer. Is there any chance that it might work the same way in us? In humans, it has been discovered that people with Li-Fraumeni syndrome who have a 90% or higher lifetime risk of developing cancer have only 1 copy of the P53 gene. Remember, most of us have 2. Now, this is frontier science, and researchers understand that it is rarely the work of just 1 gene. However, it would seem that nature has already figured out a way to prevent cancer from occurring. Perhaps 70 years from now, we will have found a way to adapt those strategies to prevent cancer from occurring in us. Or perhaps we will see greater advances through personalised medicine. Because every person's DNA is unique, cancer cells are different in everybody. No 2 children are the same, and similarly, no 2 cancers are the same. Now that researchers have sequenced the human genome, we have the ability to precisely understand the genetic makeup of each child's cancer and understand the genetic changes that are driving that cancer to be aggressive. If we can tailor or personalise targeted drugs that attack the specific genetic changes that are in the tumour itself, then treatment will be more successful. It will also lower the risk of late effects because we won't be damaging the normal cells. So the aim of personalised medicine is to use genetic sequencing to match the right drug to the right patient. And it is hoped that this, combined with a new wave of immunotherapies that harness the body's own immune system to attack the tumour itself, will lead to more effective childhood cancer treatments. But in our bold vision of the future, let us not forget that it is not just more effective treatments that might eliminate the risk of late effects. What if there was a simpler way to prevent them from occurring? My team and I recently surveyed and interviewed over 600 Australian and New Zealand childhood cancer survivors, and we're incredibly surprised to find that after surviving childhood cancer, 17% took up smoking. 25% did not take their medicine as prescribed. The vast majority, 71% of survivors who had received radiation, a known risk factor for the development of skin cancer, didn't always use sunscreen. 72% didn't exercise as recommended, despite exercise being known as one of the greatest prevention strategies for many of the diseases that survivors are likely to develop, such as cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, and second cancers. So, as someone with a PhD in psychology, not medicine, I understand that it is more than just good medicine that goes into the treatment of human disease. In the future, I hope that we design and develop models of care for childhood cancer survivors that include cancer and late effects education. I hope that we design and deploy state-of-the-art interventions so that the prevention, not the treatment of late effects, is the goal. I believe this would be transformative. So, what does the future hold? I don't know. But I do know what you hope for, you work hard for. And it is my hope that the 10-year-old child diagnosed with cancer today goes on to live another 70 years to reach the Australian life expectancy of 80 and stands here with us in 2089, having lived the next 70 years with a greater quality of life than ever previously thought possible for a survivor of childhood cancer.